Hello and welcome back to the Web Dev Coach, where my goal is to teach you web development. This is the second video in my series of Svelte videos. In the last video, we went over a basic introduction to Svelte as well as reactive variables. In this video, I'll continue with the same code and introduce you to props in Svelte and render logic. Let's start. This here is our code. If you're totally unfamiliar with this code, I suggest you go back one video to the first video in this Svelte series. Now let's start the dev server over. Once it's started, go ahead and click on localhost 5000 and you'll see our dev server open right up and our application. One number, which is count, and another number, which is double that of count. Now, the best way for me to introduce props to you is to extract these two paragraph tags here on the bottom, and we'll use count as a prop of a second component. That second component will go ahead and name. I just cut out the two paragraphs there. We'll name that second component scoreboard.svelte. We'll paste our two paragraph tags there. Go back to app.svelte. Let's copy these two variables here, and we'll create a script tag up top and paste those two variables right there. Now we have basically the same thing as app.svelte. However, again, we want count here to be our prop and to come from a parent component. So we'll delete this equals 1. We'll tell Svelte that we want this to be a prop by writing the export keyword in the front. So the export keyword tells Svelte this is a prop. So now in app.svelte, we'll go ahead and import scoreboard from scoreboard. We'll remove this double here because that doesn't make any sense. We'll initialize a parent count, and we'll change these as well. And this will just be the count value of the parent component, and we'll render out a scoreboard here on the bottom where its count equals the parent count. We'll go ahead and save that. If everything works as planned, nothing will have changed. And, of course, nothing rendered. So let's go back to our app.svelte, see what's going on. And yep, here at the top, we need to add .svelte. That's my bad. We'll go ahead, go back to our dev server, let it refresh, and you'll see that our app is exactly the same, except this is not red, because if you remember, styles are contained within the component where they are declared. So we'll cut out these style tags and put them right back into scoreboard.svelte, and we'll let the color be defined there. So great, props are working now. Let's try it again. If I wanted to start count at 10 and ignore this parent count for what it's worth, you'll see that we go back here. Our count is 10, but the buttons don't work because the buttons manipulate parent count, and that's not working down here. So great, everything seems to be working. Now, another thing I wanted to teach you is how to use default props in Svelte. And one way to use, well, the only way to use default props in Svelte is to let count equal your default prop. Now we can go back here, declare another scoreboard, and we'll let this be 17 or 18. We'll go back here, and we should see two scoreboards here on the bottom. So 1, 2, 18, 36. Our scoreboard is working as planned. Nice. Wait, no, this is me editing the video. I totally made a mistake. Me writing count equals 18 does not demonstrate how default props work at all. To demonstrate that default props are working, let's delete count altogether. That way, the count will default to 10. Let's go back to our application, refresh, and see that yes, indeed, our count defaulted to 10, to its default prop. Let's go back. Let's make it, let's say, 14. Go back to our application. It'll refresh. It'll default to its default prop. Perfect. The last thing I want to cover in this video is render logic. So starting here in scoreboard, I'll go over some render logic. What render logic means is basically having if statements inside of your render. So, for instance, we can say if count is greater than 10, and here we'll finish that if statement. If count is greater than 10, we'll go ahead and write count is greater than 10. So this should only show up when count is greater than 10. I'm actually going to get rid of this. Actually, no, getting rid of the default prop does not matter. Let's just delete the scoreboard here. Go back to our application. Now, when we go ahead and go over 10, boom, you'll see 11 is greater than 10. And it only renders when the conditional is true. So let's go back here to scoreboard. And I also want another if statement, but an else if. So here we write colon else if 5 is greater than x, basically x is less than or equal to 5, sorry, count, we'll write p count is less than 5. So when it's less than 5, we write count is less than 5. When it's greater than 10, we will write count is greater than 10. So let's go back to our application. You see 1 is less than 5, 2 is less than 5, 3, 4, and then nothing appears because we're in between 5 and 10. But then we could see our 13 is greater than 10 render out. Things are working perfectly. Now let's write the final else here, just like this. And I'll write count is between 5 and 10, just like that. Now I want you to notice these colons here when we need to use an else. These are necessary and I guarantee you'll forget them. But luckily, they're in the Svelte docs. So let's go back to our application. 1 is less than 5, 4 is less than 5, 5 is between 5 and 10, 11 is greater than 10. Perfect. So this here is how you do render logic. Of course, we are rendering something very simple, but we can very easily render out a whole other component here. Very, very easily. So this is render logic. Go ahead, have fun with it. That's the end of my video. In the next video, I'll continue on with render logic and start with DOM events. If you liked my video, please give me a thumbs up. Please show me some love in the comments. If you didn't like the video, go ahead, give me a thumbs down. Tell me why you hate the video in the comments. Tell me what videos you want to see in the future. And do not forget to click subscribe. This is the Web Dev Coach. Peace.